All right, hi everyone. I'm Cody. I'm a marketing specialist here at QNAP, and I'm here with our product manager, Deval.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
And today we are excited to present our latest version of the QNAP operating systems, QTS 5.1.0, as well as we'll be having QTS Hero 5.1.0, and both are currently in beta. Numerous new additions have been made to increase both performance and security. And looking at the agenda, we'll start with an overview of how QTS 5.1.0 boosts performance. Then we'll look at how security will be improved. And we'll also cover a few general features to improve overall use. After our brief overview, Deval will give us a hands-on look at the new operating system and give a demonstration of some of the new features. So SMB multi-channel support is the primary performance boosting feature, and it's one of the biggest additions to QTS with this new update. What this is SMB3 client can establish multiple network connections simultaneously to an SMB share. So with more aggregate connections, you get more potential throughput. This is somewhat similar to link aggregation, but a key difference here is that you don't need a managed switch to enable this, and there isn't any complicated network configuring required to get this working. You simply enable this in the NAS interface, and the rest is automatic. Another advantage to SMB multi-channel is fault tolerance. So if for some reason one of the connections is unplugged or goes down, data transfer can still continue through the remaining connection. Hardware-wise, you just would need to have multiple ports on the NAS, a switch, and either multiple ports on the connecting computer or a high-speed port on the computer with the same port available on the switch. One thing to keep in mind is that the client device connecting to the NAS must also be running a recent QNAP operating system to support SMB multi-channel as well. So for PCs, you'll need Windows 8.1 or later. For Windows servers, you would need Windows Server 2012 or later. And on Mac, you'll need Mac OS Big Sur 11.3.1 and or later. And for improved security without compromising performance, QNAP is adding support for the AES 128 GMAC algorithm. AES 128 GMAC facilitates SMB signing for better security, but also enables faster performance. While doing so, it's better than the previously used CMAC algorithm for performance. With SMB signing, each packet has a signature generated by using a session key to authenticate the data transmission occurring in order to prevent malicious interference. It's only used for Windows clients, however, so this will not be applicable with connecting Macs. And QTS 5.1 will also be introducing Delegated Administration. As you might guess from the name, this means that QNAP NAS admins will be able to grant to various users of their choosing permissions for certain management settings that would typically be exclusively available to admin accounts. This enables more management flexibility among teams to manage the NAS without always having to go to the admin to make needed adjustments. But rather than giving a particular user full admin permissions, administrators can still grant permissions to only the specific roles they deem necessary for a particular user. So this allows for a balance of security, but also access flexibility. Another added security feature is passwordless login. Now you'll be able to securely log in with either a time-based one-time security code from a third-party authentication app, like we have, a QR code from QNAP's authentication app, login approval, where you approve a login from your mobile device or with a verification code sent to your mobile device. For passwordless, you can choose the QR code option. In this case, a QR code will appear on the login screen. You'll be able to scan it with QNAP's new authentication app, QNAP Authenticator, and the QR code will be different every time you log in to facilitate a secure connection method while also providing a quick login process. And QNAP's Amos Cloud app facilitates centralized NAS management across locations. Using one portal, you can manage and access multiple NAS and or QCPE systems. Amos Cloud enables administrators to remotely access, manage, and monitor various system resources on the NAS. This is a great way for organizations to reduce IT overhead by streamlining tasks for management and upkeep across multiple locations. IT staff can monitor system health, make firmware updates, and adjust the system settings and more. And QTS 5.1's Predictive Migration is an upgrade to the original Predictive Smart Migration feature that allows users to specify multiple trigger events that prompt the system to automatically replace a disk before it fails. So now Smart Migration can prompt the RAID rebuild. The premium add-on DA drive analyzer could prompt a RAID rebuild. For systems using certain WD drives, WDDA could prompt a RAID rebuild, or for NAS installed with certain Seagate drives, IHM can prompt a RAID rebuild. In addition to more efficient disk replacement, the RAID process will now also be more efficient. The older process would require all the blocks to be rebuilt when RAID recovery is needed. However, with predictive migration, only the blocks with data are required to be rebuilt. And because of this, the NAS performance is less impacted during the RAID rebuild process, and the data will be rebuilt quicker. So with that, we're going to hand things off to Deval, and he's going to give us a live demo, and we'll be able to see some of the new features of 5.1.
Thank you very much, Cody. All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Deval. I'm the product manager here at QNAP, and today we'll be giving you a small demo of QTS 5.1.0. So as Cody mentioned, there are a few major upgrades to this operating system, majorly with performance, security, and some management features. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the SMB multi-channel, which I'm really excited about because you can actually get more performance out of your NAS even without having to upgrade much in your network. You don't need a special switch. You don't need to have any kind of special networking on your computer. The only thing you need is multiple network ports on the computer, or if you just have multiple computers, they can all take advantage of this. Most of our QNAP NAS does come with multiple network ports, so the QNAP NAS should be ready to use this feature. All you have to do is update the firmware. So let me show you a quick demo of what I'm referring to. So first of all, I'm going to show you what happens when you have no device, just have one network connected to your QNAP NAS, right? So right now, just ignore that adapter 2. I just imagine that it's only adapter 1 is connected. And if you go here under WinMac and NFS, I'm disabling SMB multi-channel. So let's say if I open up a network drive on that NAS, and I'm going to try transferring the data from my computer to this NAS, and you should see that it's actually transferring at about 2.5 gigabit per networking because it's using one single network port, right? So that's how it should be, right? So if you look at the resource monitor here on my computer, and if I go to system resources and networking, and it's showing you that it's only using adapter 1, right? So let me cancel this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable SMB multi-channel, and that's actually all you have to do to use this particular feature. So enable multi-channel, connect both the network port of your NAS to your network, like to your router or to your switch. And also, you need to, if you're going to use just one computer to get the advantage, then you also have to have computer with multiple network ports. Right here, you can see that I have connected, so ignore the other ones. I only have connected one network cable on this particular NAS. So if I transfer the same file, you're gonna see it's not gonna get any kind of network uh, update or upgrade because my computer only has one network port. But on the QNAP NAS, you can actually see the SMB multi-channel already working because it's using both network port now. It's actually using, say, adapter 1 and adapter 2, basically, because it's now using both the network port to give you the added advantage. Now, let me stop the transfer. I'm going to show you something really cool. So I'm going to plug in an additional network cable on my computer. So now my networking is, I have a switch that has two network ports connected from my NAS to the same switch, and also two network cable coming from my computer to the same switch as well. So right here I have network port 1 and I have network port 2. Both of them are 2.5 gig. Now let's say if I start transferring the same file, you're going to see double the speed. It's actually 565 megabytes per second because it's actually using both network port on my computer and both network port on the QNAP NAS to actually give you the added advantage. And that's the best feature for SMB multi-channel because it's using both network ports. So you can see right here, it's using both my network ports on my computer, and you're going to see both network ports being used on the QNAP NAS. So as you can see, a 40 gig file is actually being transferred much faster now because it's double the speed. And also, if I disconnect, let me cancel this. Another advantage of SMB multi-channel is fault tolerance. So let's say if I start transferring the file again and I disconnect a network cable from my computer. So let's say if I disconnect a whole network cable, see the second network cable got disconnected, and you can see my file transfer did not get disconnected. It's actually just slowed it down. It's just basically half the speed because it's still using the same this first network port that it was connected to. So that's a major advantage of SMB multi-channel. Not only you get double the speed, but you can also get fault tolerance. So if you have a network cable that gone bad or network port that gone bad on either the QNAP NAS or on the QNAP on your computer, you still have more speed, or at least you have the transfer not getting disconnected. Basically, your application still run fine. So that's another advantage. Now, if you don't want to have a computer, if you don't want to use a computer with multiple network port, but you still want to take advantage, you can still have SMB multi-channel connected and connect both the network ports to your switch or to your router. And if you have multiple network computers transferring data to your NAS, the QNAP NAS will use both network ports. So for example, right now, let's say for example, you have a 1 gig QNAP NAS and you connected that 1 gig uh, cable to your switch, right? Now, let's say two computers are connecting and transferring the data to your QNAP NAS. Right now, the way it will work is it will divide the 1 gig into two computers. So it'll be 500 megabytes per second or 500 megabits per second because it's using the same 1 gig port to be able to accept data from two different computers. Now, if you enable this feature and connect the second 1 gig port on your QNAP NAS to your router or your switch, and then you transfer the data again, QNAP NAS will be able to use 1 gig on both this computer as well as the NAS to give you 1 gig full speeds to both the computers. So that's the added advantage to be used with this SMB multi-channel. Now, already see a couple of questions about port trunking. Now, let me first show you what port trunking is, right? Port trunking allows you to team up two or more network ports on your QNAP NAS and then use that to give you, boost the speed as well as have fault tolerance, which is the same what SMB Multichannel does. But with port trunking, you need to have a special switch that supports 802.3 AD to be able to use that feature. But if you don't have any special switch or any special router that supports that, you're not going to be able to see the full advantage of that. The SMB multi-channel does not require any kind of special hardware. If you have a regular dumb switch in your network, you can just connect both cables and be able to use that feature without having to upgrade anything on your network. So that's the main advantage over port trunking. Now, there is a disadvantage with SMB multi-channel versus port trunking. Port trunking works for all services on your NAS. If you're using iSCSI, it will work. If you use NFS, it will work. SMB multi-channel only works if you're using SME to transfer data. If you're using iSCSI or if you're using NFS, that will not work. Or even if you're transferring data over the internet using file station or any other features, this will not work. If it only works via SMB. So if you just transfer data to your QNAP NAS or accessing via SMB, you can just start using this feature. So that's the main advantage of SMB multi-channel, and that's the main upgrade that I would like to focus on the QTS 5.1.0. So if you have QNAP NAS with multiple network ports, once you can start using it currently in the beta version, or if you would like to wait, we will soon be releasing a final release of 5.1.0, and then you can start using that feature as well. So that's the main advantage of 5.1.0s. Now, the next major upgrade for 5.1.0 I'd like to focus is delegation or delegation administration. What this does is that, so without this feature in the current 5.0.1 firmware, if you want to have other admin accounts to do other features, like let's say for example, if you want to have somebody else create users on your NAS or install applications on your NAS or just monitor the system, you have to give her full admin access. A regular user cannot have any other features other than accessing data. But with 5.1.0 and delegated administration, you can now assign other users to do just basic system management without giving them full control of your NAS. So we have about 8 different categories that you can see right here, which is system management, application management, access management, system monitoring, user and group management, shared folder management, backup management, and backup operation. Now, system management is where the user will be able to see everything except for SSH. So he won't be able to SSH into the NAS or change any major features of the QNAP NAS. But he can access all other features. He can create users, he can delete users, he can access data, he can give user access permissions. So system administration has all the features. Application management is where user can just install application but nothing else. He can't access data, he cannot delete or create users, just access or install applications. Access management is where user can provide permissions to your users. So he can uh, access the shared folder and then provide permissions of what a certain users can access or cannot access. System monitoring just can access resource monitor and see what's going on with your NAS. User and group management, where users can create users and groups on your NAS. Shared folder can create shared folders. Backup management can create backups and run backup jobs and backup operations is basically create their own backup jobs and run backups. So that's the major advantage of 5.1.0. Another feature that a lot of people were requesting is be able to assign admin access to domain users. So this NAS is actually joined to a domain. So if you go back to delegated administration, and let's say if somebody wants to have system monitoring access, you can just go to domain users and then give him access and apply. So now if I log out and join or log in with the domain account, he can now access the resource monitor. So right here, he can see right here, once I'm, this is my first time logging in, so it's going to go through all the privacy prompts as well. So once I'm done with that, so you can see resource monitor is now there. So that user can now monitor the resources of your NAS. This is for user who wants to troubleshoot something on your NAS, right? And you don't want him to access anything. So if you look at file station, he won't have access to any other folders. You can see it's there's no access to any folders on his account because I've never given him any access. He won't be able to see control panel as well because he doesn't have access to that. But he has access to resource monitor, so he can see all the resources on your NAS. How is the memory usage? How is the network usage? How is the CPU usage? What processes are running? So this way he can troubleshoot without giving him full control of your NAS. So that's a major feature as well. So if I log out and log back in as the local admin account and go to control panel and go to delegated admin, and let's say if you want him to create users, you can give him a user. So you can give him multiple different access. You can also give him system monitoring. Also, you can give him user. Also, you give him user shared folder management as well. So you can give him multiple delegations. So this way, your main admin doesn't have to get all the requests for administration, right? So if you have a large company that is using QNAP NAS, you can create sub-admins to do specific tasks instead of you doing all the tasks on your NAS. So now if I log back to that domain account, he should have few more controls on his account. So if you look at, he now has control panel, but he only has access to users, user groups, and shared folders. So if you see users, he can create new users. He cannot delete already created users. He can only create new users on his account, and he can also create shared folders on his account as well. And all the shared folders that he creates will be able to see. If you create for your main admin account, he won't be able to see that here. So that's a main uh, upgrade with delegation administration. So that's delegated administration on the new firmware. The next I want to show you is the new login uh, accounts, or not login accounts, basically two-step verification or passwordless login. So we already have two-step verification where you can use Google Authenticator to use two-step verification, but now what we have is passwordless login. So once you have a recovery email, you can click on Get Started, and then now you can do two new methods of login. I think somebody needs, let me change the size of my screen. Give me 1 second. I think it's small to read. Hopefully that is better. Hopefully that is better now. So now with the passwordless login, you have two new methods. You have to use the QNAP Authenticator app on your NAS. Oh, sorry, QNAP Authenticator app for your Android or iOS phone. Once you install the application, you can now use that to log into your NAS. So no longer you need require to remember passwords or have complex passwords. Once you have one complex password, you don't need to remember that anymore. You can now use the QR code. What I mean by that is once you install the QNAP Authenticator app and then you set up this, let's say I'm going to set up the QNAP Authenticator, right? Now you have to use the QNAP Authenticator app to scan the QR code. Once you scan the QR code, hit finish. Now if I log out and try to log back in, it's going to show you a QR code, and then you have to use your phone to scan that QR code using the QNAP Authenticator app, and then you'll be logged in. So you no longer need to remember the password anymore. You just have to scan the QR code every time to log in, and that is it. The other method of passwordless login is login approval. Login approval means that if you want to log in, you have to make sure that you have push notification enabled on your phone. Once you have done that, when you log out and log back in, again, you don't need to remember the password, but you can scan the QR code and then, I'm sorry, you have to disable the QR code. So once you let me disable that quickly. So now what it will do is it will pop up on my phone that a login request has been attempted. Do you want to approve this login request or you want to deny this? Once I hit approve, the QNAP will now log in automatically. You don't need to remember that code. You just have to make sure that the code on the screen matches with the code on the phone. If it doesn't match, it means it's a wrong login. You can now approve or deny that, and then only then it will be logged into your NAS. So without that, so that's where, again, you don't need to remember the password. All you have to do is approve it or deny it, or you can scan the QR code. So that's the new methods of login. You still have the old methods of two-step verification on your NAS. So if you go back here, if you don't want to use the passwordless login, you can disable them here. And then go to two-step and then start two-step verification. And now you can either use the QNAP authenticator or you can use your own authenticator like Google Authenticator to be able to verify your login. So when you log in, you have to enter the code that is on the QNAP authenticator or Google Authenticator, then you'll be logged in. So, and also you have to have the password as well. So that's the new methods of logging in QNAP QTS 5.1.0 or even the QTS 5.1.0 as well. The next feature and the last feature I want to discuss today is the AMIS Cloud. AMIS Cloud is a new way to monitor multiple NAS on your NAS, on your QNAP. So when you join My QNAP Cloud on your NAS, you'll be asked to either join an organization. So when you log into My QNAP Cloud on your website, you can go to this three boxes and then go to QNAP or Organization Center. By default, there is one organization created already. You can use that, or you can create your own new organization. And once you have created an organization, you can then join your NAS to MS Cloud. And then MS Cloud allows you to see all your NAS from a single location. So if you're monitoring multiple NASs, you can use this to monitor all your NAS to ensure that everything is working fine, all your disks are working fine, all your volumes and shared folders doesn't have kind of warnings or thresholds or any kind of issues. If you have QUCP, you can also monitor all your QUCP on this device as well. The other thing you can actually do is device applications. You can see what applications are installed. You can delete them, or you can install new applications on your NAS. Another major feature with this is let's say if you're deploying multiple QNAP NASs at different locations and you have added them all under MS Cloud, you can select a single application and then select all your NAS and install, and it will install that on all selected NASs without having to go to each NAS and install that application. So that's the major feature that MS Cloud brings. But basically, it's a cloud-based monitoring system that you can monitor all your NAS from a single location. You can also restart the device, shut down the device, or update the software on your QNAP NAS. And if you go back to dashboard, you can see what's going on. You can also do metric alerts as well, where it will alert you if the CPU utilization reaches a certain threshold that you select: CPU load, memory usage, swap usage, network download upload speed, or network usage and storage pool utilization. So you can get uh, alerts for different settings on your QNAP NAS based on what you select. So let's say, for example, you want to get notified if your volume usage reaches 80%. You can enter the 80% here, and it will notify you that the volume usage has been reached 80%. You can also do error threshold, where it would at 95%. So at 95%, it will show you as an error rather than a warning, because you're actually using up almost all the space on your QNAP NAS. So you can create different policies. You can create multiple policies for different NASs as well. And this is just a few examples of what you can actually do with MS Cloud. So we're gonna have few more webinars to actually go deeper in these applications. This is just a quick overview of different settings with QTS 5.1.0 or even QTS Hero 5.1.0. So those are the major features now available on this new operating system for QNAP NAS. Now I'm gonna open up the floor for Q&A. So if you guys have any further Q&As, just keep putting that in the Q&A section. I already see a few questions already. The first question is, does the network adapter have to be Ethernet, or could be Ethernet and one wireless adapter? If you talk about uh, the computer, yes, you can actually have a wireless and a network adapter, and it should be able to use both of them on your computer. On your QNAP NAS, has to be 2 network ports. Not only 1 gig, you can actually do 10 gig as well. Actually, I forgot to show you. Let me quickly go back. Under SMB Multichannel, you can actually select more than 2. You can actually have 4 network ports as well, or even 5 network ports as well. So if you go back to Win, Mac, and NFS, go to SMB Multichannel settings, you can actually select which adapters. So this QNAP NAS, it's a 973AX. It has a 2.5, two 2.5, and 1 10 gig. I can select all of them. If I have all of them connected, I can use all 3 of them to give you added advantage. If you have 2 10 gig you can actually get 20 gig connections to your NAS as well. So this is great for applications for large file transfers like video editing as well. So again, added advantage as well. So not just one network port, you can actually have multiple network port as well. Another question is, would this eliminate the need of NIC team on the NAS? So I think I already went uh, on that. So you don't NIC teaming is, so if you're using it purely for SMB transfers, then I would recommend SMB multi-channel over NIC teaming, because NIC teaming requires special hardware. If you already have those special hardware, then you can keep using NIC teaming because it should give you the same advantage. But if you're using it for iSCSI or NFS or any other services other than SMB, then NIC teaming is still a better choice for you. Can you please increase the size of? Thank you, Franz. Yeah, did change the monitor, so hopefully that was better for you. Another question is, are we able to use other authentications like Microsoft or Google Authenticator? Yes, the two-step verification allows you to use other authenticator to be used with your QNAP NAS, not just QNAP Authenticator. QNAP Authenticator is a new application from QNAP that does passwordless or even two-step verification as well. Another question is Amis Cloud just a cloud version of QCenter? It's actually not a cloud version of QCenter, it's just a different application that combines uh, networking devices as well as uh, NAS into one single location, and it's a cloud-based application that allows you to uh, monitor your NAS. But QCenter will still exist side by side with this as well. All right, that was the last question. Do you guys have any further questions? Can we connect two 1 gig Cat6 cable from our switch to the NAS? Yes, you can connect two 1 gig connections from your switch to your QNAP NAS and be able to get advantage. Doesn't matter what kind of cable for 1 gig. I think 1 gig can accept Cat5 and above. But if you're using 10 gig, then Cat5e for smaller distances. For larger distances, Cat6 is recommended. But yes, 1 gig will work fine with Cat6 as well. Switch is only 1 gig. That should not be any problems. If you have a computer, if you have QNAP NAS with two 1 gig, you can connect that to that same switch. And if you have your computer that also has two network ports, you can connect that to the same switch as well to get the added advantage. But if you want from multiple computers, you can just connect them to that same switch, and they should all be able to take advantage of that. Earlier, it was mentioned that a connection from multiple SMB to single LAN would get a speed up. Is that true? So yes. So here's the scenario that I can show you is, let's say if your computer has a 10 gig port and your QNAP NAS only has a one single 2.5 gig port without the SMB multi, let's say, rephrase the scenario. So let's say the computer has 10 gig port and the QNAP NAS has two 2.5 gig port, and you connected that to the same switch, and the computer is also on the same switch. Without the SMB multi-channel, the computer, when it transfers the data onto SMB multi-channel, without the SMB multi-channel, it will only use the one 2.5 gig port. Now, when you enable SMB multi-channel, even the single 10 gig port, when it transfers data, the QNAP will actually use both 2.5 gig port to give you 5 gigabits per second speeds. Even though if it's coming from one single computer with 10 gig port, and then the QNAP NAS has two 2.5 gig, it will actually use both the 2.5 gig. Now, that's a good question, because now I'm going to give you another scenario that you can actually take advantage of that. Now, if you don't want to use the computer with two network ports, what you can actually do is let's say if your QNAP NAS has two 1 gig port, you can connect that to the same switch. Just buy a 2.5 gig adapter, a USB adapter for your computer, and then connect that to the same switch. QNAP will use that single 2.5 gig from your computer to give you 2 gigabits per second because it's using SMB multichannel for the both 1 gig port on the NAS. So that's another way you can actually use SMB multichannel with one single network port on the computer. So let me rephrase that. The QNAP NAS, both 1 gig port is connected to that switch. You buy a 2.5 gig adapter for your computer and then connect that to the same switch. There you go. Now you have 2 gigabits per second instead of one single 1 gigabit per second. So that's another great feature you can actually use with your new QTS 5.1.0. Another question is, any ETA for release? We're hoping that it will be released sometime in June or early July. Thank you for joining, Frank. Hopefully we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you for your feedback, Franz. Unfortunately, yes. As I mentioned, there was a lot of features that we wanted to cover on this webinar, and then I didn't want to have a long webinar. But what we're gonna do, what we have planned is once it's released, I'm gonna go through each individual features or multiple individual features on a longer webinar format or even a workshop format, so we can dive deep into each of these features. Today, the webinar, what I just wanted to cover the new features that the 5.1.0 introduces without having to go step by step because that will take a long time. So that was that was my plan for today. But you say 50 minutes. Again, that 15 minutes is not enough to actually show you step by step, unfortunately. But no, few more webinars are coming for this as well. Will the hero be released at the same time as the QTS? Usually hero follows a little bit later. The QTS is released at an earlier time, but since both are available, I'm hoping that it will be available together. Do you plan to discuss ZFS? Can you, we already have few webinars for ZFS already available on the QNAP College YouTube channel, but if you want something specific, you can let me know. But as far as ZFS features goes, the QTS 5.1.0 doesn't actually have anything update for ZFS. There are a few features that are coming for ZFS, like adding, mainly the new feature for ZFS is adding drive even after creating the RAID. So you can now add drives in your RAID 5 or RAID 6 on the go. You no longer need to create a new RAID for that. So let's say if you have an existing RAID 5 or RAID 6 on your QNAP NAS, let's say it's an 8-bay system and you have filled it up with 6 drives with RAID 6. Now you can add the 7th drive and add that into your existing RAID 5 or RAID 6 and expand the RAID. You won't be losing any data. It will just add that into the existing RAID. So for example, let's keep it simple. Let's say you have a 8-bay unit and you have filled it up with 6 10-terabyte RAID 6. So technically you have 40 terabytes usable. Now you add another 10-terabyte drive into drive or bay 7, and then you expand the RAID. You now have 50 terabytes space available without losing any existing data. And you add the 8th drive in the future, you can now get 60 terabyte of usable space. Yes, they will restrip across all the drives. That's my understanding. If you already have a fully filled system, you won't be able to add another drive because it's not available. So this is only for users who have spare bays available on their units. With 4 bay filled with 4 drives, you actually don't have a space to add another drive. You can only do is add expansion bays. With expansion bays, right now certain expansion bays like SAS expansion bays will allow you to add or expand your storage pool into the expansion bays, but certain expansion bays like the USB expansion, the SATA expansions, don't allow you to expand the storage pool, so you have to create a new storage pool for that unit. How about size upgrades on all drives? I have to confirm on that, Joseph. I need to check on that. I'm gonna send you my email. Can you send me a quick email or send me your email and I'll get back to you once I confirm that. But the major feature was uh, RAID expansion. Perfect. I'll send you the email once I have confirmed that as well. Any further questions? Oh, there's another question I missed. When will be a more deeper seminar? Hopefully in coming months. We do usually do one every month. So in July, we have something planned for networking. So unfortunately won't be able to do it in July, but something in August, we'll have a more detailed seminar about the QTS 5.1.0 as well as QTS Hero 5.1.0. And by the time it will be released, so more people will be using it, so they can follow our guides as well. All right, we'll wait for another minute. If you guys have any further questions, please send them in. Looks like no further questions, so thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. You guys have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us, and keep your eyes open for the follow-up email on this. We'll be posting the video on our QNAP College YouTube page, and we'll give you guys a link to that as well in the follow-up. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.